Welcome, friends. It was a cold, rainy night. The streets were empty, except for a man holding his little daughter's hand. Suddenly they saw a woman sitting against a brick wall, her white suit soaked, her legs trembling. The man rushed forward. "Ma'am, are you okay?" he asked softly. The woman looked up with fear in her eyes, whispering, "Please, don't hurt me. I can't walk." Her voice broke as tears mixed with the rain on her face. The man paused, realizing her fear. Slowly, he removed his jacket and wrapped it around her shoulders. Hey, it's okay. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to help." His little daughter stepped closer, holding out a small umbrella over the woman. "Daddy, she looks like a princess," she said innocently. The woman looked at the child, her lips trembling. "You're very kind," she whispered. For the first time that night, she smiled faintly. The man lifted her gently, carried her to his car and said, "No one deserves to be left alone in the rain." Days later, the woman revealed her truth. She was the CEO of one of the biggest companies. But tonight, she was just a broken soul who found kindness from a stranger and his little girl. And in that moment, everything changed, for her, for him, and for the little girl who taught them both what compassion really means. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share. Only on Soul of Kindness, seen Jabardast. The next morning the rain had stopped, but the pain in her legs hadn't. The female CEO woke up in a small, cozy living room, not in her luxury apartment, but in the humble home of the man who had rescued her. The smell of coffee and pancakes filled the air. She looked around, confused but safe. The little girl ran to her with a big smile. "Good morning, miss. Daddy said you need breakfast to feel strong again." The woman smiled faintly, her eyes moist. "You're very sweet." She looked around and saw old photographs on the walls, the man with his daughter, both smiling, yet something was missing. A mother's face was nowhere to be found. When the man came in with the tray, she noticed the tiredness in his eyes. "You didn't have to do all this," she said softly. He placed the tray near her. "I didn't do it because I had to. I did it because someone once helped me when I had nothing." There was silence, the kind that carries 1,000 unspoken emotions. The woman looked down, her voice trembling. "You don't know what I've lost." He knelt beside her and said gently, "Maybe not. But sometimes life breaks us so someone else can help rebuild the pieces." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "I was so busy building an empire, I forgot what it meant to feel human." The little girl hugged her tightly. "Then stay with us for a while. Daddy says kindness makes hearts walk again." The CEO's heart melted. For the first time in years, she felt warmth that money could never buy. As the morning sun peeked through the window, she realized that maybe, just maybe, this small family was the miracle she never knew she needed. Days had passed, and the bond between the CEO, the single dad, and his little daughter had grown stronger than any business deal she had ever made. She had started to smile again, not the fake corporate smile she wore in meetings, but a real one that came from the heart. One evening, while the sun dipped behind the trees, the little girl brought out an old family photo. "This was Mommy," she said softly, showing the picture to the CEO. "She went to heaven when I was a baby. Daddy says she's watching the stars now." The CEO's eyes filled with tears. She gently took the photo in her hands and whispered, "She must have been so kind, just like you." The man looked away, his jaw tightening. "I never thought anyone could fill that silence again," he said quietly. "But somehow, since you came here, the house doesn't feel empty anymore." The CEO blinked, fighting back her emotions. "You saved me that night, not just my body, but my soul." He smiled sadly. Maybe we both needed saving. A soft piano tune played in the background as the little girl climbed onto the CEO's lap and said, "Can you stay forever? Daddy smiles more when you're here." The CEO's lips trembled. She looked at the man, his tired eyes, his humble strength, and then at the child who had unknowingly healed her. "I don't know what the future holds," she said, her voice breaking, "but right now this feels like home." The man reached out his hand. "Then stay, not as a CEO, not as someone broken, but as someone who finally belongs." The rain began to fall again outside, softly against the windows, but this time it didn't feel cold. It felt like a blessing from the sky, washing away years of loneliness and pain. She smiled through her tears, whispering, "Maybe I can walk again, not just with my legs, but with my heart." It had been a week since that rainy night, but for the female CEO, it felt like a lifetime had passed. She was no longer the woman who gave orders from a glass office. She was someone rediscovering what it meant to be alive. One morning she stood by the small window, watching the little girl draw hearts on the fogged glass, while the single dad brewed coffee in the kitchen. The aroma mixed with laughter, and for the first time in years, her world didn't smell like perfume and power, it smelled like home. The man walked over and smiled. "You're healing faster," he said softly. She nodded. "Because for the first time I'm surrounded by kindness, not competition." He chuckled. "Guess you've traded board meetings for bedtime stories." She smiled back, but her eyes glistened. "And I don't regret it for a second." The little girl ran up to her and placed a hand-drawn picture in her lap. It showed 3 people, a man, a woman, and a child, holding hands under a big rainbow. "That this is us," she said proudly. The CEO's heart trembled. She gently pulled the girl into her arms. "It's beautiful, sweetheart." Just then, her phone buzzed. A message from her company. "Emergency meeting. We need you back in the office." Her smile faded. The man noticed the change in her eyes. "You have to go back, don't you?" She hesitated. "I built that company from nothing, but now I'm scared to return to that emptiness." He looked at her tenderly. "Then don't go back as the woman who left that night. Go back as the one who learned what really matters." Tears rolled down her cheeks as she whispered, "What if I lose this peace?" He took her hand. "You won't, because peace isn't a place, it's people, and you've found yours." The little girl hugged them both tightly. "Promise you'll come back soon," she said softly. The CEO kissed her forehead. "I promise, my little sunshine." As she left the small house, rain began to fall again, just like the night they met. But this time she wasn't afraid. Each drop felt like a reminder that even storms can bring people together. She looked back one last time, saw them standing by the door, and smiled through her tears. "Thank you for teaching me how to walk again. With love." Welcome, friends. 6 months later, the world had changed again, but this time for the better. The once broken CEO now stood tall, not just on her healed legs, but on the strength of a heart that had learned compassion. The grand hall of her company was filled with employees. Cameras flashed, journalists whispered, and everyone waited for the speech that would decide the future of the company. She stood on the stage, elegant in her white suit, the same one she had worn the night she couldn't walk. But now her eyes no longer carried fear, they carried purpose. She took a deep breath and said, "There was a time when I thought success was about numbers and power, but I was wrong. True success is when you touch someone's life with kindness." The crowd grew silent, listening closely. She continued, voice trembling with emotion. "Months ago I was helpless, broken and alone in the rain. And 2 strangers, a single father and his little daughter, showed me what humanity truly means. They didn't know who I was. They didn't ask for anything. They just helped." Her eyes filled with tears as she smiled softly. "That night didn't just change my life. It gave me back my heart." Then, to everyone's surprise, the single dad and his little girl walked onto the stage. The crowd gasped. The man looked shy but proud, and the girl clutched a small bouquet of wildflowers. The CEO knelt, her voice trembling. "You both saved me when no one else cared. Today, I want the world to know the future of this company will stand for kindness, compassion, and second chances." She turned to the man and said, "I want you to lead our new community program, helping people who've lost their hope, just like I once did." The man's eyes filled with tears. "You don't owe me anything," he said quietly. She smiled through her tears. "I know. That's why I want to give you everything that really matters." The little girl ran to her and hugged her tightly. "Daddy said angels don't need wings," she whispered. "But I think you have invisible ones." The entire hall went silent, then erupted in applause. Many wiped their eyes. The CEO looked at the audience and said, her voice steady and strong, "We can rebuild companies, but we must never forget to rebuild hearts." The man and the woman held hands as the crowd cheered. For the first time in her life, the CEO wasn't thinking about profits or prestige. She was thinking about people. As the scene faded, the camera panned to the little girl, smiling brightly under the stage lights. Her drawing, the one with 3 people under a rainbow, now framed proudly behind the CEO's desk. Sometimes the greatest wealth isn't what you build, it's who stands beside you when you have nothing. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share. Only on Soul of Kindness, Seen Jabardast.